I'm channeling my inner Leslie Knope on this one to make the best ClipCut park.
Hey guys, and thanks for joining us at Tinker House Studio 3. I'm Will Meadows.
And I'm Sara Meadows, and today we're reviewing the game ClipCut Parks from Renegade Game Studios. This is from designer Sean Graham and Scott Huntington.
It's for 1 to 4 players. It's a roll and snip game. Takes about 30 minutes to play. Renegade sent us a copy, so let's check out how the game is played.
To set up the game, give each player their scissors and a park sheet.
Deal 5 cards to each player, and each player flips 2, and then you're ready to begin.
Players select one person to roll the die for the round, and all players will make each of the cuts shown on the die.
Cuts can be a length of 1, 2, 3, or 4 squares long in one direction.
Any pieces that fall must be immediately added to a park or crumpled and set aside.
Players must follow the requirements on their park planning cards by placing their snippets on the correctly colored areas, wildlife, or recycle-friendly places.
Some areas require a connected section of park squares and are signified with a bridge.
Once a player completes a park, they gain the bonus and then flip the next of their park cards.
Once a player has finished all 5 parks, they win the game. ClipCut Parks is an innovative addition to the roll and write genre that has seen a huge boom here in 2019. This one, you have your own sheet filled with different park spaces, and they are different from your opponent's sheets, and you will cut them up depending on what the die rolls are to try and create your own little parks.
Yeah, it's really interesting. As you jump into the game, you start chopping away at pieces. You're trying to build that, perfect space that will be 3 wide with a blue pool and a happy dog section. You're trying not to cut it, but you're waiting for that one to show up on the die so you can actually snip off the piece that you want. It's a surprisingly brain-challenging exercise that you go through. Aside from the dexterity of just being able to cut around a million pieces, there is really a lot of thinkiness that goes into what appears to be a really simple kindergartner-style scissor game.
Yeah, I was a little taken aback when I started playing the first game and thought, oh, this requires a lot more thinking and planning than it just simply looks to show on the box, especially when you're handed safety scissors like in kindergarten, like Will said. There are a few more rules that we didn't go over when we were explaining the game about what you're allowed to do for your cuts. You're not allowed to use a 1 and a 1 on the die to cut 2 spaces in a row. You can't continue those cuts. They have to be separate spaces, not continued. And then you must cut the full amount. So if you roll a 3, you must cut 3 spaces, and that may hurt you. If you cut off a big chunk of your park paper, you're not allowed to cut less or more.
Right, and you may end up accidentally cutting more than you really thought you were, and all of a sudden your piece of paper turns into 2 pieces of paper. You got to crumple up that whole piece that you're not using. In a single player game, that's negative points. In a multiplayer game, it counts against you at the end of the game if there's a tie, which we have seen a couple times. It's pretty easy for everybody to kind of finish their park at the same time at the end of the game, but whoever has the fewest number of crumpled pieces will actually win it.
In the game, it does come with the Grand Parks little mini expansion. So there is a second deck of more difficult parks. You can use this in solo mode, or like we've done, we've shaken it up a little bit and passed everybody 1 or 2 of those cards to make it a little more difficult. These cards have more spaces that offer or require you to have specific things in your park.
Yeah, it is a lot of fun to be able to successfully cut out 2 or 3 pieces on one turn and being able to flip over multiple cards. We've seen it to be a pretty tight game most of the times that we play it. I mean, it's not difficult, it's just a matter of optimizing what you do and really studying that card to start off with to figure out like, oh, these 3 pieces are all right next to each other. I want to get that cut out, finish out this card really quickly.
Yes, there are also bonuses at the bottom of the perks when you finish them. And so you may gain, there's a couple of different bonuses. You may gain an extra little snip that you can take a 1 or 2 snip with. And then there are also some tokens that you can use later on in the game. So the tokens are, there's a double-sided, a paw print, or a recycle, which you can place that on a space that doesn't have it to meet the requirements. Or you can gain the gardener shovel, and that allows you to ignore one of the color requirements.
Scoop it right out of there. It's a really fun one. If it looks like something you would enjoy, definitely check it out from Renegade Game Studios. Thank you guys so much for liking, subscribing, following along, and commenting. Hope you guys will tune in for our next video. Tune in for our next video.
On this roll and write genre that has hit gamers, blah.
Hit them. ClipCut Parks puts a slash, cuts through, does something with normal roll and writes.
Parks from Renegade Game Studios. This is from designer Sean. You get to be Ron Swanson. You might have the beard for it.
Half top, half. Ron Swanson doesn't have a beard.
Well, true. We could burn it off and see what happens. Remember that episode?